This is a series of 50 slides taken of the home and paintings of Carl Larsson. They show how his works depict his life and family during the late 1800s and early 1900s in the central area of Sweden, Dalarna. Carl Larsson was a painter and illustrator in Sweden for 75 years. He was born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden, where he studied art at the Academy. Here he is in a self-portrait. This boy grew up to become Sweden's leading monumental painter of all times and a brilliant illustrator. His bust stands near his home in Dalarna. He met and married Karen Bergiö in 1883 near Paris, where both were studying painting. In 1889, they moved into this house, which was the gift of Karen's father, Adolf Bergiö. Named Lilla Hyttnas, the hut on a point, this home near Sundborn village in a province of Dalarna was an ever-expanding home for 30 years. It was a wooden cottage of 2 rooms, kitchen, attic, entrance hall, and woodshed, to which additions were made from their limited resources in 1890 and 1900 as the Larsson family grew. Larsson painted the things around him, such as his house and his family. This sign over his front porch welcomes the visitor to his home with "Welcome, dear you," to Carl Larsson and his wife. To the right of the entrance hall is the family workroom, which was Larsson's original studio. It had many windows so that he could look out in all directions as he painted. The paint cupboard, which looks like a post, had slots and names for the colors. On top is an old man who was carved by a carpenter from a Carl Larsson drawing. Karen, too, worked in the workroom on her many woven projects, which can be seen throughout the house. The dining room was the next room to the right. Chairs were ordered from a carpenter who made them for 3 kroner each. They are upholstered with natural leather cushions with which the shoemaker made. Lampshades were designed by Carl from stiff paper made to look like blooming cactus flowers. This painting, Getting Ready for a Game, which was painted in 1901, shows how the room was the center of family life. Windows between the dining room and workshop were kept during one of the expansion periods. These were illustrated in 1905 and include a castle, several floating angels, which Karen and Carl to the right are facing. A light and cozy drawing room extended from the dining room toward the lake. Here a large window overlooks the Sandborn River. The tablecloth is one of Karen's designs. Flowers on the windowsill from 1900 gives the artist's view of the room. Moving on to the studio, one sees the huge mural on a wall facing the entrance. Around the border of this 9x12 room, Carl Larsson inscribed, "Diligent and full of hope, do find you toll modes. The sun rises in a friendly way, shining on hard work. Real progress, added peace, more joy in life, and your own comfortable home waiting round the corner." This verse was taken from a book of his father's, which he had seen as a child. The bust of Carl Larsson, on which seems to be an altar, was sculpted by his friend Christian Eriksson. Behind this is the school children's choir at Stockholm's Lagardsgärde. On a side wall of the studio are paintings from different periods. Mystery of Life dominates one wall. Grandfather can be seen gardening in this painting. The studio open fireplace is adorned with a relief of Gustav Vasa. Here we see Gustav Vasa in a close-up. Upstairs were the sleeping rooms. The children's beds were painted green and are still in Karen's room. They were made of pine chips according to her plans. This is a well-known painting done in 1900 of Mama's and the little girl's room. The so-called old room was the guest house. Here a built-in bed with books on a shelf and one of Karen's Sundborn blankets welcomed the overnight visitor. On a wall is a hanging designed by Gustav Fjestad. Pop's room was painted by Larsson in 1900, showing off his canopied bed. The kitchen, which was downstairs, was painted in 1900 and shows us an old wood stove in a room with paneled walls and, of course, children. His Christmas Eve of 1892 anticipates the joy of this holiday for the small children. Two of the boys appear in the 1894 Ulf and Pentus. Karen and Kirsty were painted in 1898. Brita and Me was done in 1895. Karen and Suzanne were the topic of the 1885 A Studio Idol. Sunday Rest takes us back to the workshop with a portrait of Karen. Birthdays must have been joyous occasions in the Larsson home if this 1899 painting is to be believed. Emma's birthday in 1900 also shows a unique celebration. Breakfast under the Big Birch in 1900 continued Larsson's view of the closeness of his family. Summertime brought a pleasant bathing place, Rumble Island, in 1900. Outside the house was, we encounter The Gate from 1900. Milking, done in 1905, takes us to the barn. The Carpenter, 1905, kept himself busy in the barnyard. Plowing portrayed a neighboring farmer in 1905. Muckraking, too, gives us a view of farming at the turn of the century. Larsson did a series on Christmas at Sunburn in 1907. Here's one panel. This is the center panel. And here is the other side panel. A young girl weaving, done in 1905. Church interior, 1905. An open-air breakfast from 1910 to 1913. All take us back to the good old days. The first lesson, done in 1903, presents the young Larssons again. We hope these slides have given you a taste for Carl Larsson and the incentive to look up his home near Falun once again when you find yourself in Sweden and in the province of Dalarna. Books about his life and reproductions of his paintings are more easily found in the United States today. Happy learning to you.